Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Aspire IQ's Community and Coffee Chat. For those of you who've been previous viewers of the series, we've switched up the format a little bit and are no longer going live for the time being, but we will make sure to always keep you in the loop by sending out links in our weekly digest whenever we have a new video. And so if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, please join us in our community Slack channel. It's called The Coffee Shop, which I'll go ahead and post a link here below so that you can all join. Today's topic is all about product-only campaigns and the right way to navigate them when it comes to influencer marketing. And this is a discussion we have all the time at Aspire IQ with our clients. So we felt it was important to touch on the main reasons we see brands wanting to go this route, really dig into the pros and cons of product-only campaigns and how best to navigate that conversation with your influencer partners so that it doesn't end up hurting your brand reputation. But before we get to all of that, if this is your first time watching, my name is Madison Smith, the Senior Marketing Strategist here at Aspire IQ, and I'm joined by two amazing colleagues today, Marketing Strategist Anna Gustorf and Senior Campaign Manager on our Managed Services teams, Kara Schaub, who actually happens to be an influencer herself. So we're excited to have her here today to hear the influencer side of things as well. Anna, let's start off with you. Since both of us being on the marketing strategy team, we are really the first touch points during the onboarding process for our clients. And we dig in all the time into whether brands have the budget for these paid partnerships with influencers, or if they want to choose to opt for those product-only campaigns. So can you start us off by giving an overview of really what these types of campaigns entail?
This is a discussion that comes up quite a bit, just because, the influencer space is growing to a point that, none of us could have really foreseen when influencers first started to activate and brands started to invest. So, now that it's had a couple years under its belt, we've definitely seen that it's moved into more of a pay to play space. As far as kind of like the differences, so paid obviously means that brands have invested budget to pay influencers to post for them, whether it be Instagram stories, posts, YouTube videos, Pinterest pins, whatever it may be. They're actually paying them in exchange for posts and then additional content. And then on the product side, that's when brands decide to move forward with just gifting product in exchange for posts or doing product seeding campaigns, which we will get into a little bit. I would love to kind of pass it back to you, Madison, because I want to kind of talk through and hear your perspective on brands that can maybe only afford to move forward with product only campaigns, whether they're just getting into the influencer marketing space and they haven't gotten budget approved yet, or they're just new in the branding space in general. But I would love to hear from you kind of why you have heard from brands that they are moving forward with product only campaigns and kind of the overall best practices that you've seen with setting up those campaigns.
We see a couple different reasons. Like you just mentioned, the first one is really budget. They may just be dipping their toes into influencer marketing, so they don't have that true buy-in from higher ups on why they need to spend money in addition to giving the free product away. We hear a lot of times from higher ups that if someone is a true brand lover and they want that authenticity come across in the content they create, these higher ups think like, oh, they should be accepting free product. But that's not really how it works nowadays. That's very much how it worked in the very early ages of influencer marketing. But nowadays it's very much a business, and a lot of influencers truly run their influencer accounts as their own business. They sometimes are almost self-employed. So a lot of times these brands just really truly don't have the money in their marketing budget. So the way to kind of combat that is you really need to start off by setting your internal expectations right from the beginning, because realistically you can't expect to get this like beautiful high quality edited video from an influencer who you're just compensating solely with free product, unless your product is like very high value, like a dishwasher or a $3,000 piece of fitness equipment. So you really need to think about what is the most important outcome for your team or that your higher ups need to see? Are they strictly looking for brand awareness? So in that sense, you can, do these kind of free product campaigns and you can seed product to a larger group of people, but you'll likely have to forego the expectation that you're going to receive this beautiful, high quality content from every single person that you work with. That's definitely a great perk that you might get out of working with influencers on free product only. But what we've seen time and again is that you get lower quality content when it comes to product only campaigns. But so if your ultimate goal is getting high quality content, then usually we advise to work with a smaller group of people on almost like a content only type partnership where the goal is turning them into longer term social posting partners once you're able to give budget. So that means that you are sending them product just to have them create content for you and not necessarily asking them to post on social media, because their social pages are very much like real estate. They charge a certain amount of money to be able to have your brand posted there. And if they're going to have to choose between two very similar brands that one is willing to pay them and one is just offering free product, they are going to choose somebody that is going to compensate them monetarily. So just really keep that in mind. These influencers, they really create this content as their career. They have to shoot the content. They have to edit the content. If you think of freelancers or anybody that you contract out for your own business to work on your website or whatever it may be, you pay them for the work that they do. And that's the same with influencers. You should be honest with influencers. They get this all the time. A lot of them are really working on building up their resume. And so be honest with them. Say, hey, like, we would love to work with you on this content only basis. We'd supply you with a ton of product, and then ask them to create that content only where they aren't required to post. And then you can use that content, obviously get the content usage rights, but take that content, repurpose it across your social pages, your paid ads, email marketing on your website, so that hopefully when you're repurposing that content, it will result in an increase in metrics. That's what your higher ups are going to be looking for. And so once they see those improvements, you should be able to prove out why you should be investing further in influencer marketing. And you can't scale your influencer marketing program until you get budget. So the argument that I mentioned before, where a lot of times higher ups think the only people who are these true brand lovers are those who will accept product only. And if that's the mindset that your higher ups are currently in, that's totally fine. A lot of times they need you to be able to prove out before putting money behind things. So start with something like a seeding campaign. But the most important thing that I tell our brands every single day is you need to reframe the way that you outreach to them. So instead of asking an influencer if you can send them this product and, hey, like, if you like it, will you post about it? Instead, say, hey, we love the content you create and you fit our customer profile. We'd love to send you X products and get your feedback on it. What you like about it, any improvements you think we can make, because then that shows that you're truly looking at them as a partner to your brand and you value their opinions. So those are really all the ways that we have seen a lot of times why brands are choosing to do product only. Kara, being on the managed services teams, you deal with both influencers and brands every single day. What are the best practices for being in the situation where you have a brand that can only really afford to give free product instead of paying influencers?
Yeah, so to reiterate your point, we have these conversations pretty much every day. Of course, we want our clients to be successful. So I definitely think setting expectations is a huge part of our job. And on that same note, so is education. So for example, oftentimes we have, clients that come to us and their product might be worth $3 or $4. And they're really set on working with creators who might have a following between 50,000 and 100,000. And this is just really an opportunity that we identify there to educate them and also explain to them that for these content creators, this is their main source of income. So you really need a budget for this collaboration, and also out of respect and just to show the value that you really have for these creators, That's really important. I'm actually working on a campaign right now where the brand's launching a brand new product. It's a pretty well-known brand. And we identified this really small nano community, which means, they have less than 5,000 followers. Their engagement levels are almost insane. You could say some of them have 23% engagement. These creators, while their audiences might be small, they still are asking for money. They're educated as influencers and creators themselves. So I think in return, they expect the brands to be educated there too. So again, we just kind of take this opportunity to educate the brand and let them know, why they're charging $25 to $50, what that looks like, and also what the different tiers look like when it comes to pricing. Because I think it is not everyone's dealing with this every day and in the weeds as much as we are. So we definitely have a unique perspective to show them. But on that same page, I do work with some clients who have products that range, from $300 to $700. And the demand there from creators is really high. This goes to show that they have that brand likeness, which they'd like to have, under their partnerships and showcase on their own media kits. This opens up the net of creators we can work with. But again, it comes back to the brand, comes back to the brand mission. And not only that, it comes back to the way the brand's, positioning the product and also the messaging that is coming from the brand. We have to kind of take a step back and think through what those alternatives are. What can you do to still show the value of working with these creators when you have a lower value product, but you still have a really strong brand? They know who you are, so they are excited to work with you, but it's just kind of hard for them to justify giving up deliverables they might charge $1,200 for and not have any monetary compensations. A few suggestions I have for you here. Think about your own internal goals. What can you give back to the influencers? It shouldn't feel always like a transaction. This really is a partnership. And some of those things could be having them do a takeover on your Instagram channel. This gives them additional exposure. It's giving them the opportunity to tap into a new audience that isn't their own, an audience that has maybe never heard of them. And that's actually pretty invaluable to a creator. Another idea we have too is thinking through affiliate. So you can't offer compensation, but what you could offer is commissions. You might have to negotiate what that percentage is for them, but a lot of creators are open to that, especially if it's a product that they know will resonate with their audience and one that feels very organic when it comes to their own content.
Yeah, just in general, I know we've been kind of talking a little bit about how to approach the situation with influencers. And I loved what Madison and Kara have kind of touched on already is being really upfront with the influencers of, we love your aesthetic, we love your following, it really aligns with kind of what our brand is. And more so kind of proposing a longer term partnership with them. Make it as enticing as possible in the sense of making them feel like they will truly be a part of your brand. Something that we haven't really touched on too much yet, I know Madison called it out, was product seeding. We have seen a lot of brands testing that out, especially when they don't have budget and they're not even really sure where to invest money if they were to get it. So as far as product seeding campaigns, the first thing I always suggest brands do is utilize social listening, putting their ear to the ground to seeing who is talking about them already and sending them more product. And then once you get to that next stage of being able to send them product, focusing on the fun little details of like the actual packaging that you're sending them. Is it seasonal? Does it really tell a story about your brand? Going that a little bit extra mile to, not just throw it into a box, make it this whole experience for them. And along with that, since you're sending them product, and if they already know about you, they might not know about your backstory and what sets you apart from other brands and what draws them in. But even if it's towards new people, it's a great opportunity to just get them really excited about your brand. A big goal that we see with product-only campaigns is especially for these kind of smaller brands. And so it's an incredible way to do product seeding to really increase brand awareness, get the word out there, because word of mouth marketing is incredibly impactful. And we really have seen, brands rise from the ground up just from people talking about them. And the last little piece of it too, with product seeding campaigns, is ask for their feedback. If it's a new product that you're launching, or even if it's just one of your evergreen products, it never hurts to ask their feedback on what they like about it, what they potentially want to change, because that's feedback that is incredibly powerful to your own product teams internally. I was just recently talking to a brand of ours that does this, and they give it to their product team, not necessarily to be like, oh, they didn't, like this feature or something, so you need to rechange the formulation, but it's more so like, hey, this person called it that they love this certain feature of this hair care product. Why don't we put that on the packaging? Something that can be switched up, very easily and could potentially draw in more people.
I feel like you could also use that and give it to your social team or whoever is currently creating your content in-house and say, hey, we got all of these people saying, I don't understand how this works, or I really like this part of the product. Give that to your social team and have them create content based on those questions. So have the content answer those questions. Going to the influencer side of things, because we know a lot about the brand side of things. We educate them every day on pros and cons of product only campaigns. From an influencer side of things, Kara, since you are an influencer, you have your own business, which is called Right Foot Creative. What's your take on brands who offer you product only, and how have you dealt with them?
Yes. So to give a little background, I've been in social media since Facebook pages were not a thing. And we would get messages from customers all the time. Back then they were bloggers before they were influencers. And they would kind of come to us and just say, hey, can I come by, have these shirts for free and I will cover them on my blog? Or can I come to this event for free where I know there's going to be some celebrities? Essentially, it actually was extremely successful. It gave that personal connection and it really helped them to feel acknowledged, and they kind of felt like they were in this exclusive group with the brand. I think that's one thing I really took away from that, is the personalization of the experience. So on the flip side of that, daily I get DMs and emails from brands who are way more generic. I can tell that they haven't been doing social listening, to Anna's point. For me, it's really about the messaging. Oftentimes you get an email and it's honestly a little bit aggressive. It'll be like, hey, could we gift you this $10 product, and we expect an Instagram post, Instagram story by this date. Give me your address. And it doesn't ask me anything. It's not like, hey, have you heard about us? I'd love to educate you more on the product and see if this is something you're interested in. It's been such a great learning to understand how personal you want to make an email. Say, hey, Kara, saw you were in Hawaii last month. Hope you had a really great trip. We thought you might love this product based on this. Even one sentence can make literally all the difference. On that social listening note, so I have been working with a brand recently where I receive $150 of product a month. And they definitely did a great job with social listening because I've been tagging them for probably 1 or 2 years now. So they know that I was interested in them. They know that I'm already an organic fan. And they also know that I would be spending that money anyway. So I would actually really appreciate just to do it as a trade basis. They also expressed to me that they would repost the photos potentially, or they'd be using them in their marketing. And to me, that's really worth it because they know that I'm already a fan, and getting that additional exposure actually means I'm tapping into markets with like-minded audiences that would actually drive to my page. So again, it kind of goes back to the point of I could be potentially getting exposure while I'm just getting product. There's a lot more in it for me. I would say just pay attention to who's tagging you. They're doing that intentionally. They want to work with you. That's what many bloggers do and influencers across the board. Just listen to them. It's all about listening to your audience, listening to those creators. And then in that same note, it's about the messaging. So, approach them like a human, approach them in a way that it just really shows that you value them. And maybe you can't afford to give them $150 in product. That's okay. But talk to them about it. Say, hey, unfortunately, this is our budget right now. It's okay if you can't do an Instagram post, an Instagram story, but could you let us know what you could do? Or, do you have any feedback for us? I've had that happen a few times. And then, of course, I'm going to organically post about it in my story since they seem like a really great brand. And I think that just really makes all the difference.
Some of the biggest takeaways from this are, well, one is really personalizing the communication, the outreach that you give to these influencers if you do decide that you really can only swing a product only campaign, and why you feel your brand or your product can authentically incorporate into their life. Another, being honest with influencers when you are doing your outreach, saying, hey, right now we don't have any budget for paying influencers, but here's the package of stuff that we're hoping to send out to you for a product only, maybe seeding campaign. And like Kara said, ask them what they can give back to you. whether it just be their feedback, or maybe they are a huge fan of the brand and they're willing to post about you for product only, and compensate them in other ways. And I think that the final one is that to really make sure that your outreach is talking about that long-term aspect of these partnerships, that you are really looking for brand partners to create great content for you. Use all of these tactics and all of the content you're getting back, all the metrics you're getting, to then take that information and present it to your higher ups and say, here's why we need that investment in our influencer marketing program because of these reasons. And that will then in turn help you scale your program in the long run. That's when it will lead to those conversions, to those sales.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you Madison and Kara. If any of you have any questions or ideas for future topics, please join our community Slack channel, The Coffee Shop, which I will include another lovely link here. Thank you all for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.